Srila Prabhupada. This so-called perfection of human life is a concoction. Therefore, it is said that the materialist, however materially qualified he may be, is worthless because he is hovering on the mental plane, which will drag him again to the material existence of temporary life. One who acts on the mental plane cannot get promotion to the spiritual. Such a person is always sure to glide down again to material life. In the association of so-called society, friendship, and love, the conditioned soul appears completely satisfied. So these are Lord Kapila's instructions to his mother. And Lord Kapila is describing how in this context, how a materialistic conditioned soul, in the previous verse he talked about how narakastopi deham vai na pumam styaktum ichchati. Even if the conditioned soul is situated in a horrible situation, a hellish situation, still he doesn't desire to give up that existence. Narakyam nirvrutau satyam deva maya vimohitaha. He considers narakyam nirvrutau, even such hellish pleasure as satyam, as very valuable. This is because of deva maya vimohitaha. This is because of the spell of the divine illusory energy. And elaborating further, in today's verse, Kapila Deva is saying, why such a mentality, why such a conception comes about for a person, even though he is in a hellish situation, hellish enjoyment. And Prabhupada gave the example, what is hellish enjoyment? Like a hog's life. It's so terrible. And Prabhupada narrated the story of Indra being cursed to become a hog. And he became a hog on earth. And then later when Brahma came to call him back, he was refusing to give up that position. Brahma assured him, you will become the heaven, king of the heaven. He still said, no, this is very pleasant. Such a nice family I have got, so many piglets. And he wouldn't leave. So, why does such a thing come about? And that is being explained by Kapila in today's verse. Atmajaya sutagara pashu dravina bandhushu nirudha moola hridaya atmanam bahumanyate. So Kapila Deva is giving a long list. Atma. Here Atma refers to the body. We have to always see, this is the tradition in Sanskrit, in Vedic literature. You have to see the meaning of the words according to the context. So here the Atma, Jaya, Sutta, Agara, it's all referring to wife, home, children. So it was referring to the body, not to the spirit soul. So Atma, Jaya, Atma, body, Jaya, wife, Sutta, children, Agara, home, Pashu, animals. In Vedic society, they used to have animals, cows. Kings used to have elephants, horses. So Pashu, Dravina, wealth, and Bandhushu, all the friends and family. So Nirudha Moola Hridaya. So a conditioned soul has deep-rooted attachment. Nirudha Moola. Very difficult to extricate. Nirudha Moola Hridaya. His heart, his deep-rooted attachment in his heart. Atmanam Bahumanyate. And he considers, Manyate, he regards. He considers, that's his conception. Atmanam Bahumanyate. He considers these possessing all these things is perfection in life. That's the most wonderful thing. This is the most desirable thing. Have nice body, decorate it, have a nice wife, have children, have home, have animals around, have wealth, and friends and relatives nicely talking to us, very pleasing relationship. And he is very attached to all these things. And so even though he is in a hellish condition, he considers Atmanam Bahumanyate. This is very wonderful. Just like the pig's life, when Brahma came to call him, please come, he said, no, Atmanam Bahumanyate. He was surrounded by Pashu, Dravina, and Jaya, Atma, Jaya, Agara, and all these kind of things. And he considered Bahumanyate. Such a wonderful situation I am in. And that was because Nirudha Mula Hridaya. So deep-rooted attachment. So Srila Prabhupada begins the purport by a very powerful statement, devastating all the modern ideas. The so-called perfection of human life is a concoction. So modern life, what politicians are promising, what education is supposed to deliver, what large number of people are passionately pursuing, is all of these things: good life, wife, children, animals, wealth, home, and all of this kind of a perfection that people aspire. It's a concoction. It's not truth. It is actually a foolish thing, because none of these things will remain with us forever. But still, Atmanam Bahumanyate, we value these things greatly. Prabhupada writes very nicely in the Bhagavad Gita one purport. By practice of yoga, one becomes gradually detached from material concepts. This is the primary characteristic of the yoga principle. It's a very wonderful statement by Srila Prabhupada. In the purport of the verse, Yatro paramate chittam niruddham yoga sevaya. Krishna is saying, yoga sevaya. When one practices yoga, what happens? Yatro paramate chittam niruddham yoga sevaya. Chittam niruddha. Gradually, the consciousness becomes detached, disinterested from material activities. Niruddham, detached or disassociated from material activities. And yatra uparamate, and in this way he ramate, uparamate, in this way he finds spiritual pleasure. And Prabhupada says, this is the primary characteristic of practice of yoga, yoga principle. Gradually to become detached from material concepts. This is material concept. I must have a nice home, nice wife, nice children, a nice wealth, and that way I will be happy. This is typical material concept. So, the primary characteristic of yoga principle, if we are practicing yoga, if the yoga is producing a desired effect on us, it must manifest in the form of a detachment from material concepts. Even after becoming devotee, if we are drawn to these kind of things, wife, children, home, attachment to all these things, wealth and nice family, social life, and all these kind of things, if we are attached to these things, then that yoga sevaya, yoga practice is niruddham, chittam niruddham, is not happening. Like always, Prabhupada said, nobody need to tell us, give a certificate from outside how much spiritual advancement we are making. Because it's not external. People cannot make out. One can make out oneself. How much I am being drawn to these kind of ideas, these kind of concepts which are very prevalent and very strong in the material world. How much I am attracted to these ideas. Nice family, nice home, nice wealth, nice social life. So, being detached, gradually being detached from all of these material concepts. Actually, extension of all these things actually leads to nationalism and all of these other kinds of isms in the material world. Because I'm this body, and this community is mine, this country is mine, and so I must, this nationalism, this idea of nationalism, all these ideas come about. Atmanam bahumanyate, and one considers, yes, these are very special, and pursues that very passionately with all of one's life. So, Prabhupada is saying in one strong sweeping statement that this is all simply a concoction, not really worth pursuing. So as spiritualists, we must be genuinely convinced about it. Otherwise, even in the name of spirituality, even in the association of spiritual, in a spiritual organization, we will continue to pursue these things. And then we will have all kinds of material ambitions in the spiritual organization. Prabhupada always said that there should be no such material ambition. If there are material ambitions, then there will be politics in the institution. Prabhupada so much wanted that this institution should be pure, because the mission is absolutely pure. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission is very, very pure. And it is the highest engagement. So he didn't want us to contaminate and pollute this institution, this pure mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pure mission was carried out by such exalted devotees like the Goswamis and many other acharyas after that. Bhaktivedanta Thakur, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and Srila Prabhupada himself took it on an international level. And he didn't want this to become polluted by contamination of personal ambition. So, these are all the aspirations of our spiritual master. Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitte Te Koriye Aikya. So we should reflect on these things. I am part of my Guru's mission, and I should not be having these kind of ambitions, material, personal ambitions, even within the institution of the spiritual master, and pursuing these things because Atmanam Bahumanyate, these are all very big things in life. We should know that this is not the big thing in life. The biggest thing is to develop attachment to Guru, attachment to Krishna, develop strong faith in the words of the spiritual master. Prabhupada comments, actually in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is describing to Sanatan Goswami. There is one particular section where he develops the idea of Shraddha. And in that, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu quotes a verse from the 11th canto of the Bhagavatam. And Krishna says, this is Krishna telling just before he departs from this world. So it's a very important statement. Krishna speaking this just before he is leaving this world to Uddhava. And he says, if somehow or other, if someone, somehow or other, if one develops faith in my words, just see what Krishna is saying. The conditioned souls in this material world, because of Deva Maya Vimohitaha, conditioned by many, many kinds of illusory influences, develops different kinds of faith. The 17th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is all about faith. How living entity develops different kinds of faith under the influence of the modes of material nature. So in other words, the faith, sometimes I strongly feel, this is my conviction. It is not our conviction, it is what kind of an influence we have become subjected to. We have developed a kind of a conviction. And the material world is full of many kinds of influences that come about, and conditioned souls develop attachment and shraddha in varieties of things. That's why Prabhupada writes, sometimes the living entity is wandering and he comes in touch with karma bija and he develops that kind of an idea. Yes, I must work very hard and enjoy. Sometimes he will get political bija. He comes across somebody and they will plant one politics bija in his heart. Yes, I should become a politician, I should do that. Sometimes he will get a business bija. I'll become a big businessman, make money. Those kind of ideas. So different kinds of bija one can pick up in this world. But if one is fortunate, one will get bhakti lata bija. Brahmanda brahmite kono bhagyavanji. Very difficult. And so Krishna is saying, yatruchaya, somehow or other, if the living entity develops mat kathadho, jata shraddha, if the living entity somehow or other develops a faith in my words, mat kathadho, jata shraddha. Just see the statement of the Lord just before he is leaving, because he has spoken the Bhagavad Gita. He has spoken many occasions. And the most celebrated talk of Krishna is the Bhagavad Gita. If we can develop faith in the words of Krishna, conditioned souls are developing faith in so many things foolishly. But if we can develop steadfast faith in the words of Krishna, then bhakti yogasya siddhada. And then that such a person will develop the highest perfection of life through bhakti yoga, through devotional service. And that highest perfection of life through bhakti yoga is to develop love for Krishna. So this is Krishna's statement. Somehow or other, if they develop faith in my words. I have spoken all these things. What is the purpose of life? I have spoken how they should give up all considerations and surrender to me. If somehow the living entities develop faith in this, then bhakti yogasya siddhada, all kinds of perfection can come about through devotional service. So, sometime back, one devotee asked me a nice question, an interesting question. Prabhupada addresses that in this purport here. He said, Prabhu, I have been hearing and reading about how devotees should have all these wonderful qualities. And one of them is that one should be prideless. Right? A devotee, amanina, manadena, prideless. So he asked a question, Prabhu, what if a devotee becomes proud of pridelessness? Very proud that I am so prideless. Yes, it happens. It can happen. We can become proud of the virtues of pridelessness. We can become proud of the many other virtues that a devotee is supposed to have. One can become proud of those. Is it possible? Actually, it is possible. But our method of approaching developing all these qualities is not by trying to acquire those qualities separately. The way we approach this whole subject of good character, refined character is we first become devotees of Krishna, and when we become devotees of Krishna, to become genuine devotees of Krishna, we have to come to a spiritual platform. And on that spiritual platform, all of these kind of cheating and duplicity and all of those things don't exist. Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavatya kinchana sarvair gunais tatra samasate suraha harava bhaktasya kuto mahad guna manorathena sati dhavato bahihi. If we develop good qualities on the manorathena, asati, on a false material platform, then dhavato bahihi, one can get carried away. But our principle is yasyasti bhaktir bhagavatya kinchana sarvair gunair samasate suraha. Then sarvair gunair samasate. In such a person's heart, all divine qualities will come about. Samasate, will begin to reside. So, if we make an attempt to become prideless on a mental plane, there is a chance that we will become proud of pridelessness. But our attempt is to come to a spiritual platform, and when one comes to a genuine spiritual platform, there won't be all these cheating propensities, duplicity, and all of these things. We will develop genuine spiritual qualities. And Prabhupada is talking about that in this purport. This so-called perfection of human life is a concoction. Therefore, it is said that the materialist, however materially qualified he may be, is worthless because he is hovering on the mental plane. So we don't try to acquire good qualities on a mental plane, which will drag him again to material existence of temporary life. Because if you hover on the mental plane, manorathena asati dhavato bahihi, there is always a possibility of becoming attracted to material concepts. That yes, I should appear very prideless so that people will look at me and such a wonderful person he is. They will glorify me and I'll like that. So nice it is. You see? So this can happen on a mental state, mental platform. One who acts on the mental plane cannot get promotion to the spiritual. So mental plane is one thing, a spiritual plane is another thing. Such a person is always sure to glide down again to material life. So this Atmanam Bahumanyate, this kind of a great idea, all these things, it's all coming on the mental plane. And as spiritualists, we are always striving to rise above the material plane. That's why Prabhupada says this chanting of Hare Krishna mantra springs directly from the spiritual platform, transcending sensual, bodily, mental and intellectual platforms. So in other words, this is actually coming to the Brahman, Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma, that kind of a spiritual plane. Because on that plane we can interact with Krishna, because Krishna is all spiritual. So that is our approach to come to develop all of these good qualities. There's a very interesting thing in Prabhupada's life. I'll just read some portions. This is 1944. We all know Srila Prabhupada began Back to Godhead magazine in the year 1944. His spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, left this world in 1936, 31st of December 1936. So on that evening. So And he had just received that letter, and Prabhupada was at that time a family person, and he had businesses in different places. And so he started printing the Back to Godhead magazine in English language, because his Guru, Maharaj, he had told him in the letter, you should express these thoughts in English language to the English-speaking people in the world, so that will do good to you and to those who hear you. So in other words, he had to preach in English language to the English-speaking people. So Prabhupada started the Back to Godhead magazine in 1944. And 1944, that was the time where the World War was raging. 1939 to 1945, the World War. So this was 1944. So he brought out his magazine, Back to Godhead, first issue, and he could not bring out the second issue because you had to get permission for newsprint paper. It's a kind of a paper that's used for printing newspapers, and the government stopped it. And only essential newspapers will get newsprint, and spiritual life is not essential. That's the idea of the mainstream world. So he did not get the permission. So Prabhupada kept writing letters to government officers, trying to tell them that how it is so important. And he wrote this letter on July 10th, 1944. So we'll see how Prabhupada expressing all of these ideas and going through all these difficult situations. So this is a third letter Prabhupada was writing to a government officer. With due respect, I beg to submit that under the instruction of His Divine Grace, Sri Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj, the spiritual head of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, I had to start a paper under the caption Back to Godhead. The very name will suggest the intention of starting such a paper in the midst of heavy turmoil through which the world is now passing. It's referring to the World War II. The whole world is going through a turmoil. The very name will suggest the intention of starting such a paper in the midst of heavy turmoil through which the world is now passing. A copy of the same booklet is sent herewith for your kind perusal. In that booklet, you shall find strong world opinions, even by many reputed politicians all over the world, in favor of such a movement to bring back the world into sanity by training the mind and educating human nature for the unshaking spiritual plane considered to be the supreme need of humankind. So some politicians would have expressed the difficulty of all this going on, and Prabhupada is picking up those, and he's saying that all of them are also saying that there is a need for training a human mind and educating human nature. I hope you will kindly go through the paper by making some time, and I may draw your attention specially to the introductory portion. Abhay also remarked that the editorial board of Back to Godhead felt that, who was that editorial board of Back to Godhead magazine? It was some big board of 25 people, just one person, Srila Prabhupada. Taking the opportunity to preach, Abhay explained that although the ultimate supplier was the personality of Godhead, godless men considered themselves the proprietors of all things. Then he continued in the letter. Catastrophe that is now in vogue in the present war of supremacy is guided by this false sense of proprietorship, and therefore there is need of making propaganda amongst all human beings in order to bring back to the sense of the ultimate proprietorship of Godhead. So even in a letter to the government officer, Prabhupada is writing just spiritual philosophy, giving his reasoning why his magazine is essential. Can we not therefore sacrifice a few reams of paper in the midst of many wastages for the same purpose in order to derive greater benefit for the humankind? I request that the government should take up this particular case in the light of spiritualism, which is not within the material calculation. Even in Great Britain, the government has immensely supported a similar movement called the moral rearmament movement, without consideration of the scarcity of paper, which is more acute there than here. So Prabhupada has found it. He's referring to, giving the example of Great Britain, because we are under the British rule, 1944. Let there be a page only, if not more, for the publication of Back to Godhead, for which we do not mind. But my earnest request is that the government should at least let there be a ventilation of the atmosphere, for which my paper, Back to Godhead, is meant. Kindly therefore give it a serious consideration and allow me to start even one page every weekly or monthly, as you think best, without thinking it as ordinary waste of paper, for the sake of humanity and Godhead. And very surprisingly, after Prabhupada wrote this third letter, he got the permission to print the Back to Godhead magazine. That's how the second issue came out. So Prabhupada was in this kind of, going through all of these kind of things, 1944, July. During that time, Prabhupada one night had a dream. And in that dream, he saw his spiritual master, Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur, beckoning to him and telling him to take sannyas. And Prabhupada got up from sleep and he was shaken and he started reflecting, oh, my Guru Maharaj is calling me to take sannyas. Sannyas life is very difficult. Oh, how can I do that? He was very disturbed by that. And he went back to his business activities. One night, Abhay had an unusual dream. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta appeared before him, beckoning. He was asking Abhay to leave home and take sannyas. Abhay awoke in an intensely emotional state. How horrible, he thought. He knew it was not an ordinary dream, yet the request seemed so difficult and unlikely. Take sannyas. At least it was not something he could do immediately. Now he had to improve the business, and with the profits he would print books. He went on with his duties, but remained shaken by the dream. And in 1945, the war was over, and things began to prosper everywhere in the world. And so Prabhupada decided to take advantage of the prosperity in the world, and he set up a factory in Lucknow. He rented a building, and he created a company called Abhay Charan De and Sons. So he wanted his sons to be involved, and he invested 40,000 rupees and rented a shed, and he set up a big manufacturing plant of his medicines and such things. And the very first difficulty Prabhupada encountered was that building was considered to be a haunted building. So the workers went there and they all came out running, and he said, Babu, there are ghosts there. So Prabhupada went into the building and he went around chanting Hare Krishna loudly. And he did that a few times. And then after that, the workers were peaceful. They said the ghosts had gone away. So we can see how Srila Prabhupada, even when he was in the middle of business and all of these things, his faith was very strong in the holy name of the Lord. And he went about chanting, doing all these things. And his idea was to make money and print books, because he was seeing all these difficulties to get paper, all these things. So he wanted to make money and he can print books. So we can see another interesting thing that was happening during that time. And Abhay had a servant. It says servant, and his name was Gauranga. And looks like he was a devotee. And he was a junior devotee probably. And he was also helping his family. So like an assistant, personal assistant kind. So on November 13, 1945, so the war is over, end of 1945, Prabhupada writing this, when he is running this factory, Prabhupada was in Lucknow. So he writes, November 13, 1945, Gauranga Prabhu, he addresses him as Prabhu. Don't have much information about these things. Please accept my obeisance. So Prabhupada is writing. So that means he must be some kind of a devotee. I received your letter dated 7th. Due to lack of time, I could not reply in time. I stay here alone. He's referring to Lucknow. He's staying here in Lucknow. I stay here alone with some servants. If I leave now, then I have to close everything down. Due to my leaving once and closing the business, I've lost about 10,000 rupees, and the goodwill has also been affected, and my enemies have increased. That is why I am fighting, practically staking my whole life. I am staying here all alone in the middle of so many difficulties, not for nothing. That's why I was writing to you repeatedly to come here. As soon as you receive this letter, show it to Dubra. Don't know who that Dubra is. Take at least 10 rupees from him. See those days how it was, 1945. Take at least 10 rupees from him and come here. When you come here, I'll make arrangements to send money to your home. What's the point in holding you back with an excuse that there is no servant or maid servant? He's referring to his family, who were not letting him go because there is no servant, there was no maid servant. I tried to serve them, referring to wife and children. I tried to serve them enough by keeping servants, maid servants and cooks, but up until today, they have not become attached to devotional service. Prabhupada's only concern was that the family was not attached to devotional service. So I'm no more interested about those affairs. When you come here, then I'll go to Calcutta. If I see that they are interested about devotional service, then only will I maintain my establishment there. Otherwise, I will not maintain them anymore. Bring a quilt for me. Yours, Abhay. So, like this, Prabhupada was in the midst of family life, but he was trying to engage them and encourage them in devotional life. And again, he started having these kind of dreams where his spiritual master would beckon him to come and take sannyas. And he was always hesitant about it. Now let's move on to 1968. ISKCON has been established, and Prabhupada is in, I'll just take maybe 3-4 minutes only. Prabhupada is in Seattle. He has opened a new temple there. And it's a small temple hall. There are no deities there. Prabhupada would come, and a few of his followers would come and meet, and they would have kirtan, they would have class, and Prabhupada would live in an apartment. So one evening, he did the evening program, chanting, kirtan, class, question answers. And after that, Prabhupada retired to the apartment where he was living. And the few devotees who were there, they were now relaxing. They drank hot milk, and they were getting ready to sleep. And suddenly the doorbell rang, and they opened the door, and Prabhupada walked in. So they were surprised because they didn't expect Prabhupada to come back. Just now he had left. He came back to the temple hall. And Prabhupada was in a very grave mood. And he once again, and so the devotees welcomed him. And there was the Vyasasan from where he would sit and give class. And he gave class there. So he sat on the Vyasasan, and he started, all the devotees sat there, and he started chanting Vandeham Guru, the prayers. And the devotees saw that something he wants to say. They brought the tape recorder. Once again, like it was a system, whenever he would give class, they would bring the tape recorder. And so they turned on. Then Prabhupada began to speak after chanting for a few minutes. I have just received one telegram from India. The person who gave me sannyas has left his body. Prabhupada continued to explain. One has to accept the renounced order of life from another person who is in the renounced order. I never thought that I shall accept the renounced order of life. In my family life, when I was in the midst of my wife and children, sometimes I was dreaming that my spiritual master was calling me and I was following him. When my dream was over, I was thinking, I was little horrified. Oh, Guru Maharaj wants me to become sannyasi. How can I accept sannyas? At that time I was feeling not very much satisfaction that I have to give up my family and become a mendicant. At that time it was a horrible thing. Sometimes I was thinking, no, I cannot take sannyas. But again I saw the same dream. So in this way, I was fortunate. My Guru Maharaj, here Prabhupada's voice choked up and he became overwhelmed with emotion. He pulled me out from this material life. For moments, Prabhupada could not speak. He became silent. Everyone present saw tears pour from his eyes. And then, softly, again he spoke further. Although the occasion was the passing away of the person who awarded him sannyas, Prabhupada was now speaking more of how his own spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, had called him and saved him and made him take sannyas through his sannyas guru. Prabhupada began to speak again. I have not lost anything. He was so kind upon me, I have gained. I left 3 children. I have now got 300 children. So I am not loser. This is material conception. We think that we shall be loser by accepting Krishna. Nobody is loser, I say from my practical experience. I was thinking that, how can I accept this renounced order of life? I cannot accept so much trouble. But I retired from my family life. I was sitting alone in Vrindavan, writing my books. So this, my god brother, he insisted me. Bhaktivedanta Prabhu, this title was given to me in my family life. It was offered to me by the Vaishnava society. So he insisted. Not he insisted, practically my spiritual master insisted me through him that you accept. Because without accepting the renounced order of life, nobody can become a preacher. So he wanted me to become a preacher. So he forced me through this god brother. You accept. So unwillingly, I accepted. And then I remembered that he wanted me to go to the Western country. So I am feeling now very much obliged to this god brother that he carried out the wish of my spiritual master and forced me to accept this sannyas order. So this god brother, His Holiness Keshav Maharaj, is no more. He has entered Krishna's abode. So I wish to pass a resolution of bereavement and send that. I have composed one verse also in this connection in Sanskrit. So you all present here, you sign this. I shall send it to. So Prabhupada had brought a verse. He had composed a small Sanskrit verse and he read that out. Vairagya vidya nija bhakti yoga apayayamam anuvishyam andham Shri Keshava bhakti pragnanam krupam budhiryastamaham prapadhye. And then Prabhupada began to explain what that verse means. Vairagya vidya nija bhakti yoga. This Krishna consciousness is Vairagya vidya. Vairagya vidya means to become detestful to this material world. And this is possible by this bhakti yoga. Vairagya vidya nija bhakti yogam apayayamam. This is just like medicine. The child is afraid of taking medicine. That also I have experienced. In my childhood, when I became ill, I was very stubborn. I won't accept any medicine. So my mother used to force medicine within my mouth with a spoon. So I was so obstinate. So anyway, similarly, I did not want to accept the sannyas order. But this God brother forced me. You must. Apayamam. He forcefully made me to drink this medicine. Anavishayum andham. Why I was unwilling? Anuvishayam means unwilling. Andham means one who is blind, who cannot see his future. This spiritual life is the brightest future, but the materialist cannot see to it. But the Vaishnavas, the spiritual master, they forcefully, you drink this medicine. You see? Apayamam anavishayam andham Shri Keshava Bhakti Pragnanam. So this my God brother, his name is Keshava Bhakti Pragna Keshava Krupambudhi. So he did this favor upon me because he was an ocean of mercy. So we offer our obeisances to Vaishnava Krupambudhir. The Vaishnavas, the representatives of the Lord, they are so kind. They bring the ocean of mercy for distributing to the suffering humanity. Krupambudhir yastamaham prapadhye. So like this, Prabhupada had brought that and he signed it, and he got a few of his disciples to sign that, and the next day he sent it by airmail back to India in Mathura. So these are some very interesting things to reflect on Prabhupada's own life and how he took sannyas and how he was so grateful to his spiritual master who extricated him, as he says, from all of these kind of material concepts. We'll stop here. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki.